putting in the title and the date for the Brain Tech Sport Live today, I forgot that it was 2025. And then I think that was the first time that I've had to type 2025 out. I had heard we might have a new year, but I didn't know if everybody was actually going to follow through with it. But I guess we have. So welcome to a new year. Of course, if anybody has any New Year's resolution plans or is thinking of any kind of new year, new me, just remember it's the same brain still up in your head. The brain doesn't know that it's a new year. Just like clearly, my brain doesn't know it's a new year. On a previous Brain Tech Support Live, we talked about making any kind of resolution the support that's actually going to take us there. And I think something else that comes up a lot when we're talking about mental health is the pressure that we'll put on ourselves. And I don't just mean that in a sense of how we might be critical uh, of ourselves quite often, force ourselves to, chase after lots of, goals and things we think we should be doing. And that's definitely an important part of it. But also how we'll just consistently put pressure on ourselves to do a thing. You could look at a lot of compulsions and obsessions, anxieties, mental health things we'll struggle with as this pressure and force we'll notice, but then go along with. And absolutely, we could say that pressure and that force comes from other places. The skill then is about noticing it and saying, oh, I notice that pressure to go and do a thing right now, to go and fix a thing, to go and get certainty, to go and get control. And I don't have to go and do that. I'm not going to do that. So I wish you a happy new year of not having to chase after the pressure that you feel. And everybody, thank you so much for the happy new year wishes. See everybody, Adela and Athira, Andrew in winter, Ariel, thank you so much. Don, welcome. Hey, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a happy new year too, since apparently, yeah, we're having a new year. So, happy new year to you all. I really wish you a new year with ease. And that ease, right, when our brains are pressuring us to go and fix and control and do something, can feel so risky. In many ways, that is that feeling that we're doing something wrong by not chasing after it is the thing we end up working on. May it be a year of doing things that are useful to you, that the brain gets upset about. As always, for anybody who's joining Brain Tech Support Live for the first time, what we explore here is doing the actions we want to do in life, growing the things we want to grow in life, while having any thought or feeling. So I define great mental health and fitness as the practice of being ourselves while having any thought or feeling. So it's not about trying to get rid of brain stuff. The brain stuff can be there. It's fine. It can do whatever it wants. If we get caught up in trying to clean away the weather in our heads, we're saying, oh, like, I wish I could get rid of this, or this feels too real. I think I need to do something about it. Then we get ourselves into the struggle and the suffering. Don, I see you said, have you seen any of this weird fog? I don't know what kind of. I see you mentioned that you're in the UK. Is weird fog something you have in the UK? I hope if it's foggy today, you're staying cozy and warm. If you're talking about brain fog, then I am familiar, yes, with that as well. But it's also one of the things we can have up there. Oh, Mr. Mitchell, thank you for explaining. When I see fog, I immediately assume somebody's talking about brain fog. Mr. Mitchell, Happy New Year to you too. I suppose if somebody's wrapped up in conspiracy theories, then that's one of those things where it becomes right challenging, right, for a lot of people to see the delusions and the compulsions. Uh, it's very uh, easy in general for people to get wrapped up in magical thinking. I was sharing about that over on the Instagram subscriber channel. I did a post around New Year's because around New Year's and related to resolutions, you see so many people doing so many rituals and magical thinking, superstitions and compulsions and practices because it's such a natural tendency for humans to interact with uncertainty and feelings they don't like, and then look for control, look for some kind of formula. So I don't know if anybody on New Year's Eve on the ate 12 grapes and made 12 wishes under a table and ran their luggage around the block and wore special underwear that day. When we see that though, because I think sometimes we can so often see ourselves as really uniquely struggling with our brains. But the reality is, it's a very human practice to chase control and to look for magical explanations to control. Kimberly, thank you so much for the donation. Happy 2020, happy 2025 to you too. I'm on 2025, difficult to say. Happy 2025 to you. Thank you so much for being part of the community and sharing so much support, coming to the live streams. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I hope your 2025 is starting out with ease. Yeah, talking about the New Year's superstitions, as Jay wrote there, you have to think good thoughts at midnight, otherwise the whole year is contaminated. Really common, right? Right? Because it's such a kind of typical magical thinking compulsion that we'll have to have a good thought or a right thought at some particular moment. Then, of course, that gets extended, especially to something like New Year's, where suddenly we've placed this like real importance on it. But it can come up at so many different times, right? So many times where we're just starting something new and we think, oh, I have to have a good thought or else the whole thing will be contaminated. It's useful to catch those compulsions as a pattern, right? Seeing it's not about doing it at a particular time. It's that general pattern of believing, oh, I've got to have the right thing at the special moment, or else I've got to control this bad thing from happening. And then we look for a way to do it. And so then we turn to magic. Oh, Kimberly, no, you totally wrote the year right. I know it's unusual to say 2025. Oh, Mud, welcome. That's great. You slept the new year in. That was a good. I stayed up for the new year. I took a nap earlier in the day because I knew there would be, like fireworks and things going off at midnight. So I took a nap earlier, but then I was up for when the new year started. I think, of course, the tendency that we may run into in the year ahead that can be useful to spot is just that pattern of thinking, oh, there is this bad thing that could happen. Quick, I've got to have the magical spell to control it. And we may not see it, right, as magical thinking. I think one of the areas where magical thinking comes up so much that we tend to not see as magical thinking is in social situations where we'll genuinely believe, say, writing a message, rewriting it and rereading it and rewriting it, trying to get it perfect because we believe that getting the perfect incantation written down in the text message is going to control what other people think. But in reality, you don't have magical mind control abilities. We so often believe that we do. And then because we believe that we can magically control minds, that then also brings up the possibility that we can mess up our magical control abilities and we're going to cause something bad to happen in other people's minds. And then we end up doing things, so many things every day because we believe that we're in this constant magic battle, trying to control what other people think. It happened with how we're posting on social media, things we're doing on work. Evan, Happy New Year. Harry, Happy New Year to you too. Hey. When we're exploring this year, things we want to grow, if we take a step back from trying to prevent and control things we're really worried about, it can feel scary at first because for so long, we've probably always fueled our actions with just controlling that bad thing. Like, I've got to prevent this bad thing from happening. And therefore, we fear if we drop that, that we're going to cause all sorts of bad things to happen. Like they're just going to run rampant. Two things that can really help with that. One, really identifying what are those actions of growing something we want to see this year. So if there's something you want to do this year, this month, this week, what are the actions that actually grow that? If we're consistently practicing actions that grow a thing we want to see, when the brain throws up the fear and is trying to pull us off in a different direction, we can give our time and energy to those actions that we want, that grow that thing we want to see. There can still be a lot of uncertainty and anxiety around that. What we can have 100% certainty in is committing to support ourselves. So we say, look, yeah, I don't know what could happen, but I'm going to do these actions that I know help grow this thing I care about. And with whatever happens, I am going to trust myself to support myself. I am going to take care of myself. When we can give ourselves that support, it helps us explore and step into that uncertainty. If we're hating on ourselves, if we're not going to support ourselves, if we're just kind of watching ourselves like unsupportive colleague who's just waiting for that person to mess up and go, ah, I told you so. I knew you'd mess that up. Then it's very difficult to step forward into that uncertainty. So what we're looking at there is really creating what's called psychological safety for ourselves, with ourselves. Psychological safety is often talked about in work settings, especially you'll hear about in healthcare a lot, that support and allowance for making mistakes, for talking about problems, for being vulnerable, that it's okay to bring up the difficulties because that's going to help us address them, that's going to help us help the people that we're working with, and someone's not going to be punished for that. So they feel they can be themselves, they feel they can talk about things that are wrong, things that they're struggling with. We often don't do that with ourselves. How can you make the year ahead psychologically safe for you? How can you be a good colleague to you so that when you're stepping into uncertain things and challenging things, you know you're going to support yourself? Harry said, I want to know, why do so many websites and people mention OCD as being chronic? There's a couple, there's, I would say, interesting historical reasons for that. It used to be across the board, any kind of mental illness was just seen as something wrong in the person. That kind of stigma has carried on, even though there's no scientific basis for it. So that's one of the things, like that all of these different diagnoses used to be just seen as like, oh, this is a thing and you're different from other people and that's you. And so that has really persisted with along with a bunch of other kind of myths about mental illness that you'll see a lot. Like the chemical imbalance myth is a popular one. Another way that it comes up is also just a social one. And this is, we talked about this on the mental fitness Discord server before. Some people find it useful to use the term chronic. They don't necessarily mean that they're stuck with it, but they may use it to reflect that they often struggle with it. And so, yeah, like it also depends on how it's being used. So yeah, when you read it and it says chronic, you may have a particular reaction because of things that you're afraid of or things that you find triggering. That may not necessarily be how somebody else interacts with it or uses it. Yeah, then I think another thing, like when you see that, is also just the fact that so much, kind of so many mental health care services and communication around mental health care doesn't keep track with the science. That was originally the reason I got into doing what I do, is because there was so much happening in research and the science around mental health, supports and treatments that was not at all reflected in how people were talking about it in mental health communities, or often the treatments they could access. So yeah, I mean, if a website said that it was chronic, I'd just be, you could just ask them how, like, where that comes from, how they know that. If if you want to leave some kind of mental health struggle in the past, and you don't find a label like it being chronic useful to you, yeah, you don't have to get attached to that. And it's okay for groups of people to have different approaches to how they're going to navigate their experiences with mental health. So if somebody really identifies with the idea of OCD being chronic, and that is the approach they want to take, they are looking to manage it, they are not looking to leave it behind, that's okay too. Yeah. If though you want to leave it behind, and yeah, you want to, embark on that adventure of the kind of big changes involved with doing that, that's also something you can do. Yeah, as Mud has pointed out, brains are chronic. Yeah, scientifically, we know for certain you're probably going to be having a brain. Keshav, welcome. And Ryu, I hope all is well with you. He said, so I'm wondering, is scrupulosity OCD the same as magical thinking? Example, if I do an activity that isn't Christian related, then God will punish me. Uh, so you could look at pretty much, I wouldn't, so I'll say this. So I wouldn't get too stuck on like, is something, like trying to label if something is magical thinking, or even getting caught up like something is scrupulosity or whatever. Uh, if you get down to just kind of patterns people struggle with, you can find common patterns across any fear, right? Any theme. And those patterns will consistently have an element of that magical thinking. So even if somebody has a hand washing compulsion, the only reason they're washing their hands, if you talk to them about what's going on there, is that they'll believe they are controlling some other thing. They may, for instance, be washing their hands, yeah, because they feel they're contaminated, but they're trying to clean away the contamination because they fear if they don't, they are going to spread a disease to other people and then everybody's going to hate them. And so that ritual to wash the hands in that moment may actually, if you dig into it, be about trying to control other people's minds. It is, like I was mentioning earlier, a mind control ritual. But in that moment, you'll just see hand washing, and yeah, if you see it just as trying to control germs, maybe that's a bit constricted or constrained, boxed in. Across any kind of theme, you're probably going to see a bunch of magical thinking patterns going on. So yeah, in scrupulosity too, that idea that some kind of action you do is going to control what God thinks about you. Yeah. Let's say there's human mind control compulsions and then there's God mind control compulsions. Yeah, it is just an example of how you can see the magical thinking pattern coming up. Athira, yeah, yes. Any plans to come to India this year? I don't have any plans as of yet, but I'd love to visit India again. And then also Ariel asking, any plans to visit Singapore? We'll see. Uh, are you thinking of at some point it would be great to do a workshop, I suppose, in Singapore, and it would be great to do workshops in India again. Yeah, I mean, as always, yeah, if anybody, so what'll often happen when I do the workshops is that different mental health groups or therapists or some kind of organization. Ooh, there goes my earphone. As I was saying, what'll happen with doing workshops is that often a group will reach out and then we'll organize that way. So definitely sometimes if I know there are a lot of community members in one place, I'll get a space and then organize that way. But it definitely helps if anybody else out there is watching this and this sounds accessible to you. Yeah, if a mental health charity reaches out, if yeah, a university where I am right now, I came on the start of this trip to Mexico because a university reached out, and so we did a workshop together. That helps a lot because I know there's a space, and it makes it much easier to also connect with an organization that's going to help, coordinate with people showing up, help with if there's anything that needs to happen around translation or anything like that. Then often connecting with an organization, a therapist who has a space, things like that can be useful. So yeah, really reach out. I am on this planet, so definitely feel free to connect. Dinesh said, I've been practicing acceptance, seeing a good reduction in anxiety as a byproduct. Oh, I'm sorry, but I feel dull, low, depressed on some days. Any suggestions? Yeah, suggest two things. So one, trying to lower any kind of feeling is not the goal of acceptance. That would be right the opposite of acceptance. If we're accepting things, we can accept any thought or feeling or image or voice or whatever. If we're approaching it with a goal of getting rid of feelings, it is very natural then you start to notice other unwanted feelings, because the brain's just saying, hey, you want to get rid of feelings, you liked getting rid of anxiety, okay, here's some more feelings to get rid of. And then we just get in the cycle of cleaning feelings. So I would say really watch out that the purpose of working on mental health and fitness skills is not to clean away experiences. We can have human experiences. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it's also very common to notice when we're cutting out compulsions, kind of a low period, because in the past we fueled everything with anxiety. And so also, if we are then, kind of dropping reactions to anxiety and fear, we're dropping that reactive approach to life. We also need to build a proactive approach. Because again, if we've relied on feelings we hate to fuel action, when we drop reacting to one feeling, the brain is going to bring up more, or we're going to find more. We're going to find more problems or more things we dislike, because that's what we've been using as the fuel. So I often describe this point as throwing out one engine, right? That engine that was fueled with anxiety. And now we build a new engine based around values that's proactive. It's challenging to build a new engine while we're driving the car, but that is the task. One of the things that we can help ourselves with then is being compassionate and understanding for why building a new engine may not feel as fast or as energized as it did when we were reacting to feelings we hated. We recognize the old engine was polluting up our lives, so we throw it out, but we have not built the next engine yet. And so as you're building that next engine, it can really help to make it proactively fueled by things you want to keep in your life. So not fueling it with anxiety and fear. So enjoy building that. Ivan said, I'm off caffeine for 10 years now. I look at people lately that drink coffee and energy drinks. Thanks for sharing, Ivan. Mr. Mitchell said, making it okay for myself to feel bad some days rather than stressing myself out about feeling stressed, sad, mad has been very difficult to learn how to do, but has also helped me immensely. Yeah, that's great. You're exploring that. That allowing feelings to go up and down, to change like weather, is so useful. We put so much pressure on ourselves, right? If we're saying, oh, like I must feel good, I can't feel bad. Harry, yeah, you said, I watched one of your interviews and the person introduced you as somebody who lives with OCD. Do you think it's the right thing to say, considering what image it provokes in most people's brain? Uh, yeah, like I wouldn't, and I wonder, I think I remember the interview you're talking about, and I can't remember I believe it brought up a discussion, right? Yeah, like so often that's something that if it comes up, if I'm going on some kind of interview, and they'll often have sent over some kind of, here's how I'm going to introduce you. If anything comes up, I always explain to them, like, that's not, like, it's just not, that's just not true. Like, I wouldn't have anything to say if somebody approach it as like, oh, like, do you struggle with OCD or any kind of mental health thing? Yeah, I don't, and I wouldn't. I'll typically, because that also I think would have been quite some time ago. Now, yeah, like I wouldn't interact with anything like that either. That was even looking at it as, hey, we're gonna have on this person who's going to, be a person with some kind of diagnosis or something like that. I just wouldn't interact with. But yeah, I think it speaks to just people often don't know how to interact with mental health outside of the framework of stigma that they've been taught. So a lot of people will have been taught, oh, like if you ever struggle with any kind of mental health issue, there's a thing wrong with you and you are that thing. And that just doesn't make any sense. But that often will be the framework with which they're approaching the world, and that they've been taught. And so it's totally possible to recognize that doesn't make any sense. But if that's where somebody's coming from, we can have compassion and understanding for why they might be taking that approach. Kashav, I don't know what that is that you're asking about. AK321, you said, how can I build self-acceptance? So there I would ask, how are you not accepting yourself? What kind of practices do you do to reject yourself? You're probably very good at acceptance. You probably accept a lot of things all of the time. You're probably very skilled at accepting many things right now. There, it can be useful to look at what you do or don't do with the things that you're not rejecting. And then also look at what are the things you do with the things that you do reject. So if we're constantly criticizing ourselves, constantly approaching ourselves as a problem to fix, as something that is wrong, that must be changed to be accepted, then it's very difficult to accept ourselves. So yeah, how do you not accept yourself right now? And what if you didn't have to do those actions anymore? Rob, yeah, so do you have any suggestions on how to approach feeling overworked? My mood has been very low lately because of a heavier workload. I feel a bit stuck in a stressful, unhappy situation. We like being ourselves and we dislike being trapped. Something I find really interesting to explore when people are bringing up many different struggles and are like, especially feeling very low, I like to explore how much control that person has over their time in life right now. If we do not have much control over our lives, over how we spend our time, over what we do, where we go, how we do it, etc., it's very common that we'll experience quite a low mood. Looking at what we can change in that and what we're going to need to kind of embrace can be useful. This is because quite often there are things that we may have to do that are going to take away control in our lives. It can help to, in those situations, if we can't change them, choose them. So to look at how can I bring agency into my life? So looking then at two different areas. One, is there anywhere I can bring agency in where I can change things? So sometimes that might be dropping stuff. So we say, look, I've taken on a whole bunch of things because I really wanted people to think I was a great person. And so I did all of this extra stuff. But actually, then it just takes away all of my time and energy, and I'm just trying to control what other people think and so on. So actually, I'm going to drop some of these things. So if there's an opportunity to do that, that can give us back some flexibility, some more control over our time. If there are other things that we do not control and we must do, say for a variety of reasons, we just have to work a job right now that takes up a lot of our time and energy, and we kind of are stuck in it right now, then it's useful to look at, how do I choose that? Absolutely, I want to make changes around this, and I'm going to start to put things in place to make changes around it, but I'm going to be here right now. So how do I choose it? And that is just, you saw me do this before. That is just to lessen the frustration and the fight with it. One way I'll describe this is that it's useful for me to enjoy doing the things I'm doing because I'm doing them. That doesn't mean we can't change them. But if we're doing them, we will create a lot of stress and difficulty for ourselves if we're hating on those things that we're doing, that we're stuck in. So if we're trapped in there right now, it's useful to be there. If we can change it, then let's change it. So yeah. Sorry, my headphone fell out again. So I hope, yeah, Rob, as you're taking steps in the week ahead, I hope you can find opportunities to bring some agency and space into your life. Rob, you're welcome. I'm just reading down through the messages. Everybody, I will get to all of them momentarily. EL, so is there a place in mental fitness for positive thinking? Cultivating wholesome thoughts. Is that ever a useful, skillful goal, to try to replace thoughts with wholesome ones? There, I'll ask first. I'm curious what wholesome thoughts are. Like those are thoughts. Those are thoughts about donuts, right? Rescuing baby donuts that are trapped in. I don't know where baby donuts would be trapped, since we eat them. Yeah, what's a wholesome thought? I say that just because I take a pretty skeptical approach to all thoughts. So also, yeah, like I wouldn't see thoughts as being about donuts. I would kind of approach all thoughts as trying to think. I was gonna try to name an animal that I would be like, that I would not want to pet, but then I was like, oh no, all animals are great. So there you go. Yeah, thoughts are not animals. Uh, yeah, why do you want to have anything to do with thoughts? Because and the reasoning for that is because if we believe that a wholesome thought is right and good and believable and real, because thoughts are all the same stuff, how are you going to then convince your brain to not believe whatever a non-wholesome thought is? Right? Just like if you think a wholesome thought about yourself and you believe, oh, I think I am as good as a donut. And you're like, wow, that's really special. How are you not going to believe your brain if it says you're not good like a donut? Right? Because that's the same stuff. And so that yeah, can create challenges. It can create challenges if we're basing our identity around random brain stuff like that. At the same time, There are exercises that we can explore around doing things differently in our heads. And that can be useful too. Like in my book, You're Not a Rock, in the Mind Workout, we talk about practicing possibility, which is a thought exercise. Yeah. Oh, Dinesh, enjoy exploring. Yeah, not needing to clean away any brain stuff there. Kevin, it's good to see you. He said, recently I've been having some strange gastro issues. My mind goes to colon cancer. Of course, I read stories and people have the same symptoms. I'm 38, so it's rare. How would you handle this? There's all sorts of things that we take care of around our health. So what I always talk about there with getting with taking care of our health is to have a proactive plan for it. So we're not having to, just like anything, not reactively base healthcare around like, oh, is this a bad thing? Okay, I've got to go check it. Ah, is this a bad thing? I've got to go check it. Because then the brain is just going to throw up anything that's going to get us to be caught up in doing the compulsions. So yeah, figuring out that's something you can often explore with your healthcare professional. Like, I mean, that's a conversation I've had with my doctor before, but about colon cancer, like when do you start to do the tests, the checkups, and so on. And so yeah, your doctor will be able to talk with you about that and to explore that. What I do around health, because yeah, I used to have all sorts of health anxiety compulsions, is say like, look, I am not going to look it up. It is always going to be something that I discuss with a healthcare professional, and that's going to be the outside brain that I use to come up with a proactive plan, and then I'm just going to follow that plan. Yeah, EL, it is useful to recognize we're very good at acceptance. Yeah, we accept everybody. You accept so many things every day, and lots of things that you would say if we at the end of the day we went through all of the things you saw during the day. Yeah, there's a lot of bad things you experienced during the day that you accept. You are not walking down the street seeing a piece of garbage and then arguing with it about how it doesn't mean that you're garbage. You can do the same with thoughts. Kimberly says sometimes the question pops into my head, what are you working on? Like in life, I can never articulate an answer. I'm not good at articulation on the spot in real life either. How do you get better at this? Oh, well, so I ask why do you need to get better at that? Like when that question pops into your head, what are you working on? Do you need to have an answer for it? Do you want to respond to it? Or can you just congratulate the brain for asking a question and say no comment? Anish said, I'm still very thankful for the help during my OCD recovery back in 2020. Living my life fully now. Thanks so much. Happy New Year, love from Nepal. Oh, Anish, it's great to hear. Congratulations to you. You're the one taking the steps there and navigating, having a brain and having a life. So enjoy that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. AK321. Yeah, he said, how do we be better at communication in groups amidst social anxiety? Mm, I would remove that pressure to be better at it because again, you probably already you can see you're already doing a bunch of compulsions around what other people are thinking, and then often our push to be better at communication then is also because we're afraid of people judging us, which is going to create more social anxiety. So it could help to see that pressure and that goal to be better at communication amidst social anxiety is probably a big part of what's fueling it. I would look at the compulsions that are leading up to the social anxiety, like what's fueling the anxiety, uh, and look more broadly that actually in the social situation, in the group situation, at that point, we only have the skills we've been practicing all day. So if all day I've been thinking about how other people are thinking about me, I've been, rereading messages because I want to make sure people think the right things about me. I've been judging how I look. I've been judging how I act. I've been watching, videos. I've been reading online forums, etc., all about how to, be a particular person or communicate in a particular way. Then I've been spending hours all day trying to control what other people are thinking. So then when I go into a social situation, my brain goes, people, we have to control what they think. And it's just going to do the practice that I've been teaching it. So if we look at the social situation as the outcome, the place where the changes need to happen are with everything before it. So I would be curious about how throughout everyday life, you try to control what other people are thinking. And that's actually where I would start to make changes and see that, yeah, you don't have to. Chris, he said, how do you deal with feelings of hopelessness with OCD and health anxiety, even while doing exposures? Actually, yeah, Chris, can you explain what that means, particularly when you say even while doing exposures? Can you give an example of what that means to you? Oh, Mud, I hope you're off having a good time doing a thing you don't want to do with your time. Yay, I hope you're doing great too. Ah, EL, yeah, enjoy being you and not needing the thoughts to be any particular way. Oh, yay, yeah, you said how are values different from the musts and shoulds we have in life? Yeah, it's even like I'd say an interesting kind of subtle thing to explore the difference between a must, like I should do this, because implicit there is if I don't, a bad thing will happen, and a value, which will be a choice. You could think of it's the experience of walking into the wilderness and seeing you can choose a path. So saying, actually, I could explore anywhere in the wilderness today. Where do I want to explore? Versus walking into the wilderness and going, I must go to the special high point so I can get a picture there. With a must, like I must go to the special high point to get a picture there, we can always ask, well, why do you need to go and do that? And there's probably some other stuff that they're trying to control. And so that would be the difference. If we're doing values, and this comes up a lot, if somebody is saying like, I have to do what I value or else I'll relapse, then it's just a health anxiety compulsion, right? I've got to do this special ritual of values to make sure I don't have the thoughts I hate again. And then we can see that, yeah, it's not actually just doing what we value, that's just doing something because we're afraid of having a thought. Yeah, does that make sense? Robert, yeah, you said through your own unique lens and framework for mental health, what do you think about personality disorders such as narcissism? How can they be overcome? Yeah, so I think well, so there's two things. Yeah, I tend not to think of myself as having any kind of unique perspective on mental health or mental illness. There's, even if we look at something like the community of professionals, practitioners, and individuals around the world who explore acceptance and commitment therapy, or any kind of mindfulness-based approach to caring for mental health and doing the things we want to do. I think there's a broad community of people around the world exploring these skills. And within that context, I would say we would generally, so right away, and actually Stephen Hayes has talked a lot about this. So, kind of major thought leader in acceptance commitment therapy, and you know creator and promoter of these skills a lot. We've seen some things he's explored in more recent years related to just how unhelpful our diagnostic framework is. And so, yeah, things like personality disorders, narcissism. So these are labels that we've been kind of stuck with for a long time, and aren't necessarily the most helpful or scientific. So that's part of it. If we look at somebody who's struggling, so particularly narcissism, really, let's say the kind of compulsions that somebody would get caught up in are, yeah, pretty consistent. If somebody has had, and this actually, and also, so speaking of personality disorders, so something that would get labeled like borderline personality disorder, for instance. When somebody is engaging in those compulsions, they've had difficult and painful experiences, and their reaction to them, for instance, is to push people away. If we look at something like OCD, which many people may see themselves as more familiar with here, also, that person may have had some difficult, painful experiences, and their reaction is going to be to control themselves, potentially to pull themselves away. We are just looking at different ways a person has learned to control, to avoid pain, and to control uncertainty. It is always possible to learn other ways to interact with those experiences. If somebody has learned that the best way to protect themselves is to hurt others first, and somebody else has learned that the best way to protect themselves is to hurt themselves, right? To restrict their own life, to avoid living, I would see those as the same patterns. It's just as challenging for somebody whose compulsions are only focused on themselves to work on cutting them out and to see that as useful, because quite often, too, when our compulsions are just about restricting our own lives, we'll see that as not something that's a huge problem. Oh, because I can just, kind of sacrifice myself rather than step into that fear. Somebody struggling with borderline personality disorder, narcissism, they're going to have the exact same thought processes. It's just they're going to be willing to sacrifice another person rather than do the difficult kind of step of moving into that uncertainty. But they are just as capable of doing that. And so, yeah, with whichever direction somebody's control compulsions go, it's about finding that way to support somebody in stepping into those difficult experiences and doing actions that are useful to them and useful to their community. But yeah, it's that same practice, regardless of which label we stick on those control compulsions. Kimberly, enjoy congratulating your brain. Oh, Velociraptor, thank you so much for the donation. Oh, yeah, you said, can you share some of your plans for 2025 if you haven't already? I have not yet. So, Velociraptor, thank you for stopping by and asking. Thank you for, yeah, so your support and, yeah, joining us here at the start of the new year. It's great to see you. I think so. Yeah, I noticed something about 2024, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something I noticed that 2024, I was doing a lot of stuff in cities because we were doing a lot of workshops and meetups, and that was fantastic. I enjoyed meeting everybody so much, and doing the workshops, and it was a really special experience, and I'd like to keep doing things like workshops around the world. But also I noticed that I did not do much hiking. I really only got in, I met up with a friend and did a hike. We did some hiking together, but that was pretty much the only hike I got in last year, I think. And so I realized I want to, in 2025, line up some more hikes, like long, multi-day hikes in nature. And I really making sure I do some of that every year because I really enjoy spending longer periods of time out in nature. So yeah, that's kind of one of the plans I have for 2025 is yeah, to spend some more time in nature. Maybe I don't know if we can ever do a hiking workshop. It's something because lots of these multi-day hikes are group hikes, right? That you do with guide service and things like that, especially in the Andes, where I'll be doing some of the hiking this year. So it is something I think about. Maybe if there's a lot of community members who want to go hiking, maybe at some point we can explore how we make that happen. I know in the UK, there's actually a mental health charity that does hikes and as a kind of mental health support. That the idea is everybody can come out, you can go on the hike. It's understood that everybody can talk about mental health stuff. I think they bring mental health professionals participate in the hike as well. But the focus is on hiking. And yeah, if we happen to talk about brains, then that happens too. Oh, okay. Said just to say when they tried to say my OCD had no cure, etc., and I was hopeless, you were what gave me light and hope, bro. Oh, okay. You're welcome. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I'm really great you found these tools and could see there were options and other paths that you could take. So thank you for connecting here today. Valuro said, how to deal with watching mental health videos compulsively while still wanting to learn about it. For example, I wasn't planning to click on this live stream, but I still did it. Watch cooking videos. Cooking videos, especially if not only are you going to watch cooking videos, but you're going to cook. Amazing. Baking videos, fantastic. If we bake. There is no difference between watching physical fitness videos and not exercising and watching mental health videos and not exercising, right? Like not making the changes and doing the things. So I approach any kind of video or any kind of mental health resource we're going to use as the same as looking up a workout. I'm going to look up a workout if I'm going to go and do the workout. There's got to be that connection to action. Like, hey, I'm going to check out on this thing. This is going to be this opportunity to explore these skills, and then I'm going to go and do this particular thing. So if you notice yourself watching them compulsively, but then that's not translating into action, it can help to identify a practice you're going to do in those moments instead that you are going to turn into action or that is itself action. What is something you would value doing when you get the urge to go and watch videos? To say, oh, actually, I know what I need to do. I don't need to go and watch that video. I'm going to go and do this activity instead. And it doesn't have to be mental health related. Because you can see that the brain might be going, oh, we just got to go watch a mental health video to make sure we're going to be okay, to get that reassurance. So you can give it a hug. You're like, I know, brain, you want to get reassurance, but I am okay. And because I'm okay, I'm going to go do this activity that I care about in life. Because the only reason I'm afraid of like relapse or whatever is because then I won't get to live my life. But if I'm just watching videos to make sure I feel reassured that I can live my life, that's not really living my life either. So what is the activity I want to go and do right now to practice living? And I'm going to go and do that. Having that activity set up so it's easy to access where you might typically watch videos is useful. so that it's as easy as possible to choose that activity. Sal said, I'm doing very well, thanks to you. Oh, well, I bet you did all the work. You said, I started playing soccer again, my favorite childhood hobby. My brain puppy still pees on the couch sometimes, but I try my best not to give it cookies. Oh, I see. Actually, it's not Sai. It's Sai. Sai, it's great to see you. Uh, that brain puppy, it's cute. It'll always try to learn. But yeah, it'll still pee on the couch sometimes. So it's really great you're not giving it cookies. Enjoy playing soccer. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for dropping by to share that. BS Data. You said, when I start to look at my values and where I want to explore, I have a very difficult time telling where I actually want to explore versus brain stuff. Any recommendations? Yeah, not getting caught up in the actually want to explore or anything like that. What if you just tried some things? I'll often describe this as a festival of curiosity. What if you allowed yourself to just explore? Like, you picked four different things and you gave each week of a month to one of them, and that you don't have to know like some kind of right or true or actual path. You get to try things, and you get to see what's going to work well for you, and then based on what works well for you, then you may decide you want to keep some of those. So Chris, this is explaining more about the exposure question earlier. So yeah, you said like you're doing exposures and you don't feel like you're seeing results immediately, or resisting checking with health anxiety and the fear is still there. Yeah, so there's a couple things. One, the goal of exposure is not to get rid of a feeling. Quite often, and even if you see somebody sharing about doing exposures, often they're approaching it as trying to use a soap to clean away a feeling. Like, I'm doing exposure, I should have less of a feeling. It can help instead, and this especially relates to the idea of results, to keep the focus on the response prevention. So exposure therapy is different from exposure and response prevention therapy. And exposure therapy, you're going to see, does not have the kind of supportive evidence and is an older type of therapy than exposure and response prevention. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why exposure therapy, there's all sorts of evidence for why it doesn't work, and all sorts of terrible ways that it was used to try to force people to just do a thing and be like, you'll stop hating on this, or you'll stop being afraid of this. And it's not, right? As you see, that's not a thing, right? Because even think for anybody who struggled with intrusive thoughts again and again and again and again, if being exposed to something was just going to magically go away, why would you even have intrusive thoughts? Because you've been exposed to them so many times. When are they going to go away? It does require us, if we want to explore some skills here, we're going to be looking at cutting out the compulsions. The great thing about cutting out compulsions is that the results are immediate, because our goal is not to clean away feelings. Our goal is to make changes. So if we make the change, that is the result. But if we're hating on feelings and trying to clean away feelings, and we hold on to those beliefs that I should not have this feeling and I should get rid of this thought and I need to get rid of it, that's actually the compulsion. And then it's going to continue. I'd be curious about what actions you want to be doing instead of hating on thoughts and feelings. And what if you can have any thought or feeling, and it can be there. Okay. Said, music is my passion. However, over years of depression and overthinking, I've kind of left it. I just want my confidence back and to be back in the flow. As a writer, is there anything you recommend? Yeah, I think one of the things always with creative endeavors, any kind of creative practice we want to pursue is that the kind of any kind of feelings around it are going to come after. That practicing creativity is how we fuel passion around it. And even thinking about something like confidence, those are the kind of feelings that come after creating. So one of the things that I find useful that I'll do, like if there's ever been a period of time where I wasn't writing, I'll recognize like I just need to get back into writing. So it doesn't matter how. And then I'll explore a bunch of exercises or a bunch of activities just around doing some writing, but on purpose, not about some kind of project or thing that I really want to get attached to. Because I recognize I just need to get back into that magic of creating. Because it's amazing how if we just start creating, then we start coming up with ideas. Then we start seeing things that we wouldn't have seen if we hadn't been creating. We have to take ourselves there. So yeah, if you want to enjoy some music, what would be a way to just enjoy music again and create music without any kind of pressure that it needs to produce something? Because just getting into that practice again, like you mentioned the word flow there, just starting the flow, then things are going to come up, and you'll get back into it. But yeah, finding that way to kickstart it, often yeah, we've got to kickstart it. So yeah, even if you took a week, it could be a week, a month would be amazing. If there was just a month of being curious about music again, listening to music, exploring music, experiencing music, creating music, yeah, what kind of exercises would you do for that? Especially if you think if you were creating that for somebody else. And so you kind of set up in these like festivals of curiosity, and then we explore them, and that can, I find that can help kickstart things. Enjoy. Joy Panzer, hello. EL, yes. Are there any Zen stories of individuals learning how to navigate life while having normal human experiences that you would recommend? I would say all of them. The kind of the exploration of Zen is the exploration of having human experiences. What would be a good Zen intro book to exploring experiences? It depends on how funny maybe you want to go. There is, I believe it's Hakuin, right? Maybe I'll have to confirm this. Yeah, no, it's Hakuin wrote about Zen sickness. Yeah, you can find writings from Hakuin. So many of the writings will be kind of, you know, fascinating Zen theological writings, which of course, right, can feel like you're pulling your brain out and then sticking it back in through your other ear. And so they won't necessarily always make sense, and they get very deep into the philosophy and the scriptures of Zen. It's like Hakuin has commentators on, for instance, the Blue Cliff Record. Also, though, Hakuin ran into something called Zen sickness and wrote about it. And when you, even for some of the things that people have shared today, would have sounded very familiar based on what Hakuin shared about Zen sickness. So yeah, I can't right now remember which writing it's in, but if you go online and you Google Hakuin, so Hakuin, so there's a Japanese Zen monk. If you search Hakuin and Zen sickness, Yeah, you'll the kind of book or writings where he explores Zen sickness will come up, and there I think you get to see a person exploring Zen, and then also how they maybe interact with it in a way that's kind of unhealthy, in a way that we would recognize, doing a lot of compulsions, running into that kind of that low feeling, and obsessiveness as well. And then there's a funny story of how he came out of it, which you probably uh, will not see as a practice, because Hakuin's like, "Ah, I've got this thing," and this is back hundreds of years ago, and I believe the story is he goes. I can't remember the exact kind of ritual the guy gives him, but he ends up going to like a random guy living, a hermit living up on a mountain, to be like, how do I get rid of my kind of malaise and obsessiveness? Uh, so it could be a fun story. Yeah. Hakuin has a lot of interesting writings on Zen philosophy. I everybody, hope everybody's having a good start to the year. I'm just scrolling down through the messages quickly. Oh, okay. Thank you. You have a blessed year too. Oh, EL then? Yeah. Oh, maybe the EL, if you're looking for kind of funny Zen exploration, then I would recommend EQ. So Ikkyu, also a Japanese monk. Mostly wrote poetry, but poetry exploring life. I don't know if it's translated in English, but I believe there was a Japanese, there's like a manga and an anime about EQ as well. Because EQ is a very popular, yeah, funny, interesting monk. Oh, Robert, you're welcome. Kevin said, "Do you have advice for the fear of choking on food? Trying to eat a meal is very difficult for me right now. I get tons of panic when I'm about to swallow, and I often can't do it." There, so it's something that comes up a lot. I've worked with several coaching clients. We've explored this particular compulsion, but the reason I pause is because I've never explored it with somebody without exploring lots of other compulsions. So yeah, it can be really. Like I would look at more broadly lots of compulsions and controlling behaviors happening around that. So yeah, you could connect with an experienced professional is going to be familiar with it. It's a really common compulsion. Uh, it's going to be really helpful to look more broadly, though. Yeah, and then there are going to be exercises around cutting out the compulsions, but there's going to be many ways to start practicing those skills in other areas of life so that you can then see how to apply it around the things that will seem more challenging, like food. Prod by Wolf said, "How do I manage my irrational fears and confusing thoughts in and after periods of stress? I get really confused about which thoughts are real and which are not." So I don't find it useful to judge and discriminate between thoughts. So that idea right there, that there are thoughts that are real and thoughts that are not, it sounds like you were mentioning that like a kind of a good or desirable thing, but I would see that as the compulsion. Like if you if you set this kind of rule that, oh, if a thought is real, then a compulsion is okay, then of course the brain's going to throw up more thoughts that seem real, because then you're going to do the compulsion. And so it's just going to want the compulsions. So I wouldn't. So I have a video on this, on like irrational and rational thoughts. I'm just saying it's not about that judging and labeling. It's actually about how we interact with experiences regardless of those labels. So I would look instead at actions, giving time and energy to valued actions. And that's going to be about doing that with thoughts that seem real and with thoughts that don't seem real. Like the thoughts are just cut out of the equation. BS Data, you said another question. Do you have plans to do a workshop in the US this year? I will do some online workshops, and even there's a amazing collaborator who lives in the US, and we're gonna do a talk together. We're already planning that, and they will be online. Yeah, take care, take care, friends in the US, so that we can see each other in person again. Yay. Yeah, you said, how is learning Spanish going? Any tips on how to be more consistent with learning a new language? Learning Spanish is going well, but I spend so much time every day talking English and writing in English. So one of the things I'm doing this year, so I've just lined this up, and I'll do it a couple times this year, is go and do an intensive week. So where I won't see coaching clients. I won't, like right now I'm writing every morning. I won't do any writing in the mornings. I'll just take a week and just do Spanish. And so I'll probably do a couple of those this year. And yeah, because it's going well. And I try to balance. I look at how much time I spend during a day speaking English, and then I'll look at, or writing English. And then I say, okay, well, I need to go and like read in Spanish, or yeah, like watch a video in Spanish or something like that. So I try to balance them out. But also, yeah, I really enjoy, like, I enjoy connecting, with clients and like making videos and doing these things. So I put it more on myself, that the amount of English I write and speak during the day, that is not a problem. That's useful. That's useful to me. That's useful to the community. So I then just need to make sure I balance that out with more Spanish in the times when I'm not doing that stuff. And so I try to always listen to like Spanish language music, which is really easy. There's tons of great musicians, and then make sure I'm watching. Like if I'm gonna watch a show, it has to be in Spanish. And so yeah, especially if I'm, one of the things I'm exploring right now is that if I'm reading something while I'm eating a meal, that needs to be in Spanish as well. So we just practice and increase the amount. Zaina said, I'm trying to spend less time ruminating and be more present, but I feel like I control this. I block the rumination, and I don't know if it's healthy to proceed like that. I feel like it's a form of a compulsion, but I don't want to spend time on ruminating. Yeah, because you don't have to spend time on ruminating. It's not a, it's not a, we're not, so I'll pose it this way. The thing I always ask people, if someone brings up a fear of suppressing thoughts, I'm more curious about anything you're suppressing in life. Like why do we see it as suppressing to not ruminate, but we wouldn't see it as suppressing to ignore all of the amazing things around us in the world? It's okay to not be stuck up here. It's okay to be out in the real world, living our lives. We've spent so much time devoting so much time and energy to the little gremlin up there having debates with it, that it can feel wrong to not debate it, but we don't have to. So I wouldn't see that as a like a blocking thing, but it's a choosing thing. Like I can choose to give my attention and my awareness to the things outside of me. And that's, yeah, not blocking anything. Just like I could choose to, I don't know, stare at that dot on the floor right now. Like that's a thing I can choose, but I choose to give my attention here. That doesn't mean I'm blocking or suppressing the mark on the tile floor over there. Manan said it's really difficult for me to get a therapist as it's not accepted in my society. What should I do about that? Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons for making, right? We're having this live stream right now. I make videos. There are many supports. And I think it's important that we have many supports accessible, just like with physical fitness. The reason I started making videos, right, like 12 years ago now, the reason I started making videos is because I thought it was weird that you couldn't just go on YouTube and find out how to do the kinds of exercises I was hearing about in therapy. Because, yeah, if you went to your doctor and your doctor was like, hey, you should go exercise, you could just go on YouTube and you could get an exercise video. It is really important that these skills are accessible. If you can't access a therapist, there's no reason you can't do the same skills and the same exercises. So, connect with community, find that support that helps you navigate it in the same way you would if you were exploring physical fitness. Right? Connect with people who know how to do the exercises that you want to do. Find workout formats online that help you create a structured approach. So that's the reason for the new series of videos that I've started doing. So you see the video on the fear of losing control of your mind is the first one in that. There's going to be a whole series of them, but really the point is to give people mini workout plans related to really common uncertainties, common compulsions. So if you go through that video, so the most recent video on what to do with the fear of losing control, and this will be consistent with the whole series, there's a 4-week workout plan in there of how to identify the kinds of compulsions that you're doing, and then what would 4 weeks look like of cutting out those compulsions. And then absolutely this, you're going to do more than 4 weeks, but hopefully if you can explore how 4 weeks of cutting out compulsions would be set up, you can understand how you would continue to build and grow a similar workout plan. Yeah, these skills, they don't have to be hidden in a place that's inaccessible. Absolutely, it is useful to connect with an experienced and skilled professional, just like it's useful to connect with a personal fitness trainer. But we don't need to say, oh, like I can't afford a personal fitness trainer, therefore I cannot go to the gym. You can exercise. Yeah, Val Euro is talking about the watching mental health videos again. Or repeatedly. So they said, I think the problem with me watching those videos is that I try to get perfection or see what I'm doing wrong, even though I'm very advanced in recovery and feeling good. Part of it, I think, comes from the fact that I recovered by not doing intentional exposures, just response prevention to everything that popped in my head and not avoiding everything and anything in everyday life. So I'd be curious, how do you see that as, like, I wouldn't see that as not doing a thing. Because you said, I recovered by not doing intentional exposures, just response prevention. Yeah, I wouldn't, I'd be curious. I don't know where that idea came from that's not, like that sounds like a great practice. I'm curious what you see as missing there. Especially we see the goal isn't about trying to avoid some bad thing. The goal is about giving our time and energy to our lives. So yeah, why does it matter at all what journey you take to doing the things you want to do? You can go do more of those things. Ignacio, welcome. Said, I wanted to share a question. Why? When I want to stop a checking compulsion, for example, reviewing the conversation in my head, does the brain become an expert in, it says one of two. Where is the two? Oh no, Ignacio, I don't know if you shared the second part to it, but it doesn't look like it's appeared on my chat. But the thing is now, if it appears right now, I will have forgotten what the first message said. So if you're still writing it, maybe make it as one or add a little reminder. Felix said, I've been really struggling with OCD and depression and tend to isolate myself as I cry a lot. There are things I want to do, cooking and singing, but don't know how to get started. It can help when we're getting started on something to make it as easy as possible. So watch out for the brain kind of presenting like, oh, you want to cook, you've got to do this really complex, hard thing. Or, oh, you want to sing, oh, it's got to be in this particular way. So kind of like what I was talking about earlier, RK was talking about music, and we talked about like just getting started somehow on the creative process, but not having to make it like be about the kind of final outcome. And so, yeah, with cooking, for instance, singing, same thing. Like, what's the easiest way of doing any kind of thing connected to cooking or singing that seems almost too easy? But it's starting to do that and doing the too easy thing and then starting to add to it. But again, always adding in a way that's too easy. Because the brain loves to do the thing where it presents something, excuse me, it presents something really difficult, which then we don't do. And then, because we're like, oh, I can't do that right now. And then we're depressed because we're not doing the things we want to do. So yeah, what's that way to like do something related to that and making it as easy as possible? FH. So there, a girl ghosted me after great dates out of nothing. It triggers thoughts, extreme feelings, thinking about why a person stops texting and getting no closure dominates my thoughts. Any tips? Yeah, there are a couple things. So one, it can help in any kind of experience like that to look at maybe some beliefs that we're putting on ourselves that create challenges. And so the reason I mentioned is that because you mentioned closure. We're looking there for certainty and trying to get rid of uncertainty in a way that we don't control and isn't possible. And so just that expectation, like if we have any belief that like, oh, I should get closure or I must have closure, right away, we're setting ourselves this very difficult, usually impossible task. But there's no particular reason we need that. Like it's an invented thing that just gets us doing lots of compulsions. So yeah, it can help to consider, hey, are there some things that I'm forcing myself to chase here that are just going to cause me some suffering? And then on the suffering point, it can be really useful to look at what we're trying to get from others that we need to start giving to ourselves. And to look at that, I would look at there what you mentioned with like it triggering thoughts. and feelings. Yeah, where do those come from? What's the thing that kind of coming up inside of you it's trying to look to get? What would it be like to give that love, that kindness, that certainty to yourself? What is the thing that it's craving, right? Therefore, what kind of support do you want to start to be sharing with yourself? There is so much uncertainty in life and in relationships, and other people can do whatever they want to do. We don't need to control them in any particular way. So if we notice ourselves upset about that, yeah, where does that come from? And yeah, what are those things? What's that support we want to be giving to ourselves? Because we can see ourselves trying to chase it in places where we can't get it, which just creates a lot of suffering. Oh, and actually, right in the next message is maybe related to this. Ariel said, I heard you talked about seeing if we're trying to get something from others, and also the Zen concept of there's nothing to attain. So it's the key of happiness, living like a monk. Uh, no, monks are not sharing that because you have to be a monk. That is, as you saw just above, that is a skill for life. And that's because like that idea is because we're often chasing something that we need to be giving to ourselves. Like we are often chasing, for instance, chasing feedback from other people. We're chasing validation from other people because we are such assholes to ourselves. We were talking about this a bit earlier, and like kind of being a good colleague, being a good friend to ourselves, related to self-acceptance. It's because, yeah, like typically we're being super, super critical to ourselves, hating on ourselves. And so then we look for validation from somebody else to make up for the fact that we're being such a terrible friend to ourselves. And so being nice to yourself is not something that is the exclusive purview of monks. Yeah, when we notice how we're creating suffering from chasing things, it's usually just pointing at something that, yeah, we recognize as a need, but then we're trying to get that need fulfilled through somebody we don't control, through somebody who doesn't know we want that, and from somebody who can't actually give it, because that hole is created by us doing compulsions around ourselves. So yeah, that's why it's useful to notice what we're trying to get from others. Perhaps that's something we need to be giving to ourselves. Yeah, and EL, speaking of monks, EL just mentioning, they did Google Hakuin and Zen sickness. It does sound very familiar. Enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy reading. Hakuin has if you get into even the commentary and the Blue Cliff Record and Hakuin's other writings, very insightful and influential. Yeah, Hakuin's really shaped Japanese Zen philosophy and continues to. Christos, he said, during the past year, I pressured myself to become more socially active, but in the long run, it didn't do me any good because I realized that I prefer to stay silent with myself as company. So why do you see that as not doing you good? Zaina, you said, did you do a vision board for 2025? Do you think it's a great tool to stay focused on your goals? No, I haven't done a vision board. Um, I think, in general, getting anything outside of our heads is really useful. I would say this for everybody. It doesn't matter how you do it. If we have any kind of value at all finding ways to make it tangible, to make it visible and persistent is just a great practice. That was something I learned back in working with companies around exploring strategy and values. That basically, if people in the organization can't see the value, it's not going to happen. And I think that's a useful principle to recognize with us too. So yeah, it's not that the vision board is going to, in particular as a tool, is going to have some kind of special force. It's more that, yeah, it really helps us, oh yeah, see the thing, go, oh yeah, that's the thing I want to be doing. Okay, like what actions am I doing this week that are going to, help me open my donut shop? Let's go do them. So yeah, if you'd find that useful, enjoy. Short answer. So I've been struggling with compulsions and checking around colleagues, whether I appear creepy or whether I'm flirting and being unsure about that. I have a partner. I had a fight with my partner this morning because when she asked me if I'd ever fantasized about a colleague, I had to be honest and say yes. Now I'm spiraling even more. I'm stuck between thinking our thoughts are private and the moral implications. The it's okay if your partner, if a partner, so you can see how, yeah, if a partner asks for reassurance that you're not fantasizing about a colleague, there's no scenario in which, just like asking for reassurance about anything, that they're not going to be happy with the with the response, because if you say, yeah, I fantasize about my colleagues all the time, they're going to be upset. And if you say, no, I don't fantasize about my colleagues, just because they're asking for reassurance, they're not going to believe you. So yeah, being aware you're interacting with, human brains in that situation, it's unlikely there's going to be a good answer to that question. When it comes to checking around colleagues, you can see that they're also, that's an attempt to get reassurance. The question is the issue. Like if we think, oh, am I being creepy around a colleague? It's the question where we want to catch it. There's not anything we're going to do after that that's going to be useful to us. One of the things that in general I find useful to explore at work is, having a set of work values. This isn't about, so watch out, it's not about making, okay, like here's my perfect set of values for not being creepy at work. It's really about setting that aside, saying, here are the actions I want to give time and energy to at work. Because then when the brain throws up this question, oh, like, hey, whatever it is, are you doing some weird thing, bad thing, wrong thing at work? You just say, brain, I get it, it's an uncertainty. Here are the actions I do at work. Did I do them today? I did. Then that's all I need to look at. I have my valued actions at work. I see that I did them today. I'm not going to engage with whatever uncertainty the brain throws up. So yeah, it could be useful to explore, just writing out, like, what are the actions you want to do at work? What do you want to give at work? Making it really super clear so that when the brain throws up an uncertainty, you get to say, brain, like, congratulations, you're really creative. Thank you for being creative today. I did the things I wanted to do. And so there's nothing else I have to do with that question. Simon, I see you asked about misophonia. You said, I struggle with misophonia. How do I go about this? The reactions to the triggers are so automatic. So I struggled with misophonia too. But it was a unique set of compulsions, because I would when I would hear the sound, I would physically have a reaction. So understand the physical, like, it was like the sound would get wrapped up not just with pain, but like wrong physical feelings. So understand that that reaction is probably going to happen as you explore this. It helped me to see how it related to many other compulsions. It was just another one of the compulsions where I was trying to control physical, uncomfortable reactions. So part of it was starting to want to have the physical reaction. So changing my kind of hate and controlling around the physical reaction. At the same time as exploring the kind of mental compulsions I was doing around it and physical, because I would invest a lot in trying to avoid the sounds. So it was then about starting to do exercises to purposely put myself around the sounds, have the physical reactions, and choose to do the things I wanted to do. So you could develop a hierarchy of compulsions just around misophonia, both the mental compulsions to around judging and hating on the physical reactions, and the physical compulsions to avoid and control and try to cope around the sounds. So it'd be that. And then what I find really useful with this is to identify a bunch of actions you want to learn how to do in any situation. So for me, one that really helped me to explore was doing creative things. So I like writing. I wanted to be able to write anywhere with any sound. Then you have your set of compulsions around misophonia, and then you have a set of actions you want to learn how to do anywhere with any sound. And then it's starting to combine them. So it's saying that I'm going to go write in a place where I know this sound is going to come up. And when it comes up, I'm going to have that reaction. I'm going to want that and actually be, okay, this feeling is here, great, because I want to write while I'm having this weird tingling sensation all through my nerves. Great. Let's go write something important right now. And so that's how I always approach that. Yeah, combining the two, not just doing exposures to the sounds with like just kind of to do them, because then we just hate it. It's seeing, okay, there are these sounds that I want to control, and there's this physical reaction I want to control. I'm going to practice having those while I do things that I want to do in life. And so I would, create kind of like a double hierarchy, the things I want to cut out, the things I want to add in, and then combine them together. And happy sound having. Roman said, should exercises be done planned? I sometimes listen to your streams or other channels and pick up new things. Then I apply on the fly. But this way it's not measurable. Still, I feel more flexible. Yeah, it's going to be both. Because there's so much of life you can't possibly plan for. And we want to develop these skills for life, for exploring all of the things we could in life. So in that way, it's going to be much more flexible. At the same time, there might be exercises we practice. And so you could look at it like meditation and mindfulness. Sure, there's going to be meditation time. And it's probably going to be structured, and we're going to put boundaries around it, and it's going to be in a particular place. But then the application of those skills through mindfulness is going to happen on the fly as we live our lives. Oh, Ignacio, I see you referring to the 2 of 2 message, but on my chat there was only one part of the message from you. Like, I don't see a second comment from you until your comment I just saw about the 2 of 2. Yeah, there's only that comment. So I'm not sure what you were curious about when it came to cutting out the compulsions, the reviewing compulsions. Joel, you said, I was wondering what your opinion on technology, like using phones and whatnot. Is it a good idea to limit it as much as possible? Yeah, there's not an issue with the technology itself. It's why we use it and how we use it. I always encourage people to identify like a purpose to it. Like, what do you value creating and giving? Then it can be really useful. Like, my phone, we're on my phone right now. I meet with all my clients through my phone. I create, yeah, tools through my phone. It can be really useful for that. It doesn't have to be for other stuff, like just doing compulsions and filling space. So it's about really being intentional with anything. How do we want to choose to spend our time and energy in life? If we're just pulling out our phone and like we feel we have to go on our phone and we have to do something, and we notice ourselves spending time with technology and it's controlling us, then we're gonna feel depressed. But also, we're probably then going to practice lots of other compulsions because the brain is going to start to mimic the phone. We're so accustomed to just the phone throwing up stuff and we react. Our brain is going to throw up stuff and we react. And so we get into a very reactive framework. So, yeah, just looking very broadly with any kind of thing throughout life. How do you want to be proactive and move towards your goals rather than reactively? Yeah, chasing after something that you don't control. Hello, I see some people dropping in and saying hi. And Makumpi, he said, "Why do I prefer to do everything by myself?" He said, "I feel trapped if I do things with other people. If I don't have an escape if I want to go." Well, there you go. That's why do you need an escape? So there's no particular problem with doing things on your own. But if you want to learn how to do things with other people, because you've seen that's going to be useful for a bunch of things you want to do in life, then it's a skill you can learn. But yeah, if you approach people as something that requires an escape plan, why is that? Lewis, hello? John, you said, have you overcome your OCD? Yes, many years ago. Makumi, yeah, you said, how common is OCD? At my job, we are 10 people and three of us have OCD. My sister was also just diagnosed. Oh, there you have an example of how common it can be. Joy Pedro, yes, you're adding compulsions. Joseph said, I really can't bring myself to focus, and I realize that it's a problem that significantly keeps on getting worse. What do I do to help me increase focusing skills? Yeah, do you do anything in your life right now to build focus? Focus is a capacity just like cardiovascular endurance. So, right, if somebody starts running, they can't say like, oh, I can't bring myself to keep running. You have a capacity. So have you been doing things that would increase that capacity, or have you been doing things like scrolling, constantly doing all sorts of other activities like multitasking at once that would reduce it? So if you want to grow your capacity for cardiovascular endurance or focus, it's going to involve a very intentional practice of consistently building that skill and pushing into its limits. Meditation can be a great way to start exploring focus with particular types of meditation. But yeah, there are many ways to do that. Even to, if you're going to do some work or an activity, anything like that, and you notice often you would start doing an activity and then like pick up your phone and go look at something else and do something else. Yeah, set whatever seems kind of difficult. So maybe 15 minutes at first. Do one thing for 15 minutes. Have your phone there, have your computer there, or whatever. Notice the urge to go and check something. Notice the urge to check out. And don't. And see how far can you go. And then you just start to build that gradually. Yeah, it's a skill. It's totally buildable. But it does involve us choosing to build it. if we're sitting down and then we get an urge to check our phones and we're quickly on our phones and then we get an urge to think about something else and then we go do that. That's the same as, starting to run, getting the urge to stop and stopping. And so, yeah, of course, the capacity doesn't grow then. Valentina said, living according to my values feeling robotic would be another brain trick. For instance, I check whether my relationship ticks my values, and then my brain is like, okay, but what about feelings? Doing things we value doesn't not involve feelings. I would see an advantage that I find of exploring valued action is that I can have any feeling, and I can have big feelings, and have no feelings, and that is something I wouldn't allow myself before. I can have painful feelings or really, really happy feelings, because I would have put all sorts of rules and restrictions around them, or like, if you have this feeling, then you have to do this thing, and so on. Checking if your relationship ticks your values. There may be something interesting to explore there. Yeah, is that how you want to approach the relationship? Like, I've got to check it, like, let's see if it ticks the values. Like, I guess I'd be curious, like, yeah, why is that checking happening? Yeah, what are you trying to get certainty about that? Are there other ways that you'd like to approach it? Yeah, you said, is all thinking compulsive? So what if we just even take a step back from compulsions at all, and say, like, we get to spend time and energy in life, outside of our heads, inside of our heads. How do we want to spend it? In any moment, if we notice we're spending a bunch of time up in our heads, we're like, actually, I don't need to spend time and energy up in my head right now. Yeah, you can choose to give it to something else. It doesn't have to be that, like, I'm doing compulsions in my head, quick, stop. But yeah, in any moment, we get to choose. And that's an amazing thing. Oh, Joseph, thank you for the kind message. It's an honor to be part of your adventure. I'm glad these resources have been useful. Joy Pencer, yeah, he said, should I treat urges, desires, thoughts all as just brain noise that I choose to do what I want with? I think part of the issue is treating each of these as distinct at times. Yeah, I would lump it all together, because even I would say we're generally not very good at distinguishing between them all. And if we do compulsions around one and not the other, then the brain is just going to throw up whichever one we judge as needing compulsions. And so, yeah, really it helps to, yeah, see, like, there's going to be brain stuff, and then we get to, choose our actions. Everybody, we're going to wrap up here shortly. I want to thank everybody for, yeah, a great live stream to start off the new year. Yeah, FH. Yeah, he said, thanks for the answer before on the technology topic. Regarding the phone, I struggle what to do instead of being in this reactive mindset. So instead of using my phone, TV, yeah, at first it's us just picking something, just so we can choose it. So again, looking that it's not about the particular thing, it's just that we're choosing it rather than being reactive. So even it could be one of the things I did way in the past was go and get some books and magazines. And so even the magazine was useful, because I knew, it's going to be tough to concentrate on a book, but just having the magazine by the computer So if there's like the urge, oh, like just go watch something on the computer, okay, I'm just gonna pick up the magazine and flip through it. Like I'm choosing to do that. Yeah, it could be art, it could be something you actually want to read, it could be something you want to create, etc. But making it easy to choose instead of the just automatically reacting. Oh, Deb, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you're having a great start to the new year. Ignacio, you said how to be consistent in cutting off one compulsion and not all the ones the brain wants to cut off at the same time. Or will it be necessary to recognize the pattern and cut it all together? Yeah, so it really depends. Sometimes it can be great to just cut the whole pattern because trying to cut one spot while keeping all the others is just not really doing anything. It's going to keep it going. But what I would say, somebody brings up a question like that, I don't have an answer because the thing I'm most curious about is what do you want to be doing? And letting that guide things. So if I want to be giving my time and energy to a particular activity or a particular path in life, letting that path decide how I'm going to cut out the compulsions. Because I am just dropping them so that I can give my time and energy to that thing. So I'd start there. What is that thing that you want to be growing? Then that helps us see what we're going to drop. Oh, Jerpenzer, thanks for stopping by. Eel, thank you so much too. Raunak, you said I have really disgusting intrusive thoughts, like really, 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 really disgusting. The worstest degree one can think of. Oh, I bet a lot of people on the live stream today can think of even worse ones. I really find it hard to live without compulsions as these thoughts are really wrong. So one of the things that could be useful to look at is in in how you judge and how you interact with thoughts more broadly. Why does it matter if the thoughts are really, 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 really terrible and disgusting and the worstest? So there's actually some beliefs there. And so the example I often use, like thoughts are just garbage on the street, dog shit in the street. Often we're quite skilled at walking past garbage and dog shit in the street. And we don't think that means something about us or see it as requiring compulsions, although some people absolutely do compulsions when they walk past it. Why right now do you put thoughts in this really important position? There are all sorts of other things that happen in your body that your organs create that you probably don't do compulsions around. But some of that other stuff, arguably more disgusting. Thoughts are just a product of an organ in our bodies. But if we pick up some beliefs that thoughts should be a particular way, that they should be clean, they should be right, they can't be wrong, that creates a lot of struggle for us. That's often also evident in how we approach thoughts we like. The changes aren't just going to be around thoughts we hate. They're going to be about how we interact with thoughts, how we interact not even just with thoughts, but with brain stuff. Right? The urges, the images, the voices, the fears, the intrusive thoughts, the thoughts we like, everything else that I didn't just mention that you could possibly imagine. We change our interaction with experiences. And with that, it's probably a good message close to wrapping things up on. And even, okay, Mr. Mitchell 100 will cover this because this is relevant to our weeks ahead. You said, how do you choose to do things you know are good for you, aligned with your values, when you really don't want to do them? Why don't you want to do them? when they are useful to you. This is one of the things that comes up a lot. I shared about this in my book as the person who says they like jumping in the water and they hate getting wet. I would propose that those need to go together. And so often we've separated them. We'll think we like doing the compulsions and then we'll hate what that leads to. We'll think we dislike doing the actions we value, but then we'll really enjoy where they take us. And so just starting to be aware of that. Quite often, the things we think we like or dislike, we can start to notice that maybe we're wrong about them. Because if I like where that path is going to take me, but I tell myself I dislike the path, maybe I'm wrong. Likewise, if I tell myself I really like this path over here, but then I hate that it keeps leading me off a cliff, yeah, maybe I'm wrong about what I like. Because clearly I don't like the outcome. And so I need to start connecting those together. So yeah, quite often we believe we like the compulsions. But if we recognize we hate the outcome, then yeah, we're probably wrong about what we like. And if we think we dislike doing the actions we value, but we really like where they take us, then yeah, we're probably wrong about what we dislike. Explore that in the week ahead. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your donations this week too. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, I hope your week ahead is easy and curious. So yeah, please enjoy. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by for the first live stream of the new year and sharing about your brain and your journeys on this wacky adventure of having a human experience. So thank you.